Hello, everyone. Welcome to Soulprism Podcast, where we share bite-sized nuggets of wisdom for your body, mind, and soul to serve you, the emerging soulpreneur. My name is Tammy Mack, and I'm really excited today to introduce you to Jason Mathews. He is a distinguished astrologer and human design expert, boasting over 20 years of experience in astrology and a decade in human design. His journey in the mystical realm of the stars has established him as a trusted guide in astrology, where he excels at interpreting celestial patterns. His expertise allows individuals to explore and understand their unique cosmic blueprints, shedding light on their life paths and personal challenges. In addition to his astrological pursuits, Jason has dedicated the past 10 years to mastering human design. This discipline complements his astrological knowledge, offering a holistic approach to understanding the intricate aspects of individuality and energy. His insights reveal how these ancient practices can be effectively applied to modern lives, empowering people to live authentically and navigate life's complexities with greater clarity. Welcome, Jason. So Jason, happy Rave New Year. I'm curious, when does the new year start for you?
For me, New Year starts on March 21st.
So you use the astrological.
No, I use the Baha'i calendar. Um, so it's more of a religious thing. The New Year for the Baha'is is called Nowruz, which is Persian for New Year, and it celebrates it does coincide with more of the astrological New Year. Yes, where springtime is the rejuvenation. It is more of the start of, yeah. So that's what I consider to be the new year. January 1st is really just an excuse for people to get drunk. Or 30, I guess it'd be the 31st. Yeah, January 1st is the hangover day.
So it's interesting that you bring up that religion, because I got introduced to that religion by Rainn Wilson when I read his book Soul Bloom, and I found it such a fascinating religion because it really is democratic, especially the way that they choose their leaders. I would love for you to share a little bit more about it.
So yeah, the idea of the way that we choose our leaders from the top down, the way that the government structure works with the Baha'i faith is there's a it's there's Universal House of Justice, which sits in Haifa, Israel. And they basically govern the workings of the Baha'i faith around the world. And each country has their own smaller government called the National Spiritual Assembly. That's for each country. And then locally, in each city, there is a local spiritual assembly. And this is where people are, they govern more of the ongoings of the people in that community. And the way that we elect our officials is we don't do any campaigning. We don't know who is who. It's more about who we want to choose as a name. Really, it's very random in that, especially when you go higher up. So I've been on the local spiritual assembly board before. I've been a chairman. I've been a co-chair. I've been even a secretary. I've also had no office at all. I've just been someone that's been on the assembly. And it's the kind of thing where you are there to serve the people of the Baha'i faith. And you are there to do things that are going to not only help Baha'is, but also help with exposure of the Baha'i faith in a great way that is very welcome. And members of the local spiritual assembly gather together once a year called unit convention. And among other things, we choose delegates that we want to send for the National Spiritual Assembly. So each locality will send two delegates, and each one of those delegates will come together, and they will be voted on for who is going to be part of the National Spiritual Assembly. They have their national convention where they send two delegates to Haifa, and there they elect who they want for the Universal House of Justice. Now, in each branch of government, in each level of government, there are 9 people that are elected at each level. And the reason why is because this, well, 9 is a holy number in the Baha'i. And also, it makes it so that there isn't a stalemate, and because everyone has the exact same voice. It doesn't matter if you're the chair, co-chair, it doesn't matter whatever. Um, everyone has the exact same voice. So when there are things being discussed that need to be voted on, each person's vote carries the exact same weight as everyone else. So when you have 9 members, especially when all 9 members do magically show up, which is a rare occurrence due to scheduling, but when all 9 members do show up, it makes it very easy for things to be passed. There's no deadline, and so there's no possibility for trying to influence or manipulate the system because everyone's vote has the exact same weight, and everything that we do is based on the writings of the Baha'i faith. So the Baha'i faith is one of the few religions where there are many volumes that help to help Baha'is understand what is really meant. So Christians have the Bible. Islam has the Quran. The Jewish faith has the Torah, and each one of these are a holy book. The difference is that in the Baha'i faith, there is a succession of leadership. So Baha'u'llah appointed his son Abdul Baha to be the successor, who appointed his grandson Chogi Effendi to be his successor, more of the interpreter of the writings that were revealed by Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha. And the Universal House of Justice now defends and they uphold the writings and the teachings, the word of those central figures of the faith, as being how we conduct ourselves, both in how we rule on things, what we enforce as rules, and also how we conduct ourselves as people, whether it be in government or just among others, whether they be friends of the faith or believers themselves.
So it sounds like the leader is an unlikely leader. From what I understand, is like they don't really know, and it's not something they actually want or aspire to because they're voted in by their highest values or whether or not they're the best fit for leadership. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So that's exactly right. It's more about do they have the qualifications or do they have the qualities that would make them a good representative? And the word representative is used on purpose because the goal of any government, regardless of whether it's secular, non-secular, whatever it might be, the goal of any government is to serve the people. You are there to provide a service. You are there to represent those that you serve. It's a responsibility. It is not a mark of authority, and it's a way of conducting oneself for the betterment of those that you are responsible for. And I wonder what it would look like if more leaders took that path, where they saw their role in leadership as being a responsibility, a heavy responsibility, where their role was to serve their constituents and be the representative of them, where what they talk about is of the betterment for the people rather than the betterment of themselves or of their elite counterparts.
I absolutely love that, actually. Leadership through service instead of leadership through authority.
Mhm.
That is beautiful. That is so beautiful. And that's my hope through Soul Prism Collective is that we create synergy instead of hierarchy, that we all have a seat at the table instead of, holding up a leader head. And so, what I really wanted to talk to you about today is leadership. We both have some really incarnation crosses that have leadership in it. So you are the right angle cross of rulership 4, where your sun is in gate 45, or sorry, your sun is in gate 26, your earth is in gate 45, your unconscious sun is in gate 47, and your unconscious earth is in gate 22. So this stems from the will center, the ego center, right? And it really, it's such a beautiful leadership when used in its highest form. My roommate has this leadership, and we call him the benevolent dictator, because it really is his way or the highway, but he has such an open heart and he's so generous. Sagittarius can be quite generous. They really want the best for you, but they also believe that they know what's best. Now, I'm gonna allow you to, talk about yours in a moment, but I'm gonna introduce mine as well. So I am the left angle cross of the alpha. And so it also has leadership in its incarnation as well, where the sun is in gate 41, the earth is in gate 31, the unconscious sun is in gate 44, and the unconscious earth is in gate 24. And so this is democratic leadership. And I am so excited to see how this also is going to evolve as we work with it. So I would love for you to share a little bit about your incarnation cross and the way that you've experienced it.
Sure. So, with the right angle cross of rulership, there is just from what I understand, that there's a magnetism that exists for people that bear this responsibility of this incarnation cross, and it really is a responsibility, and it's one that can either be used or abused. And with the fourth mutation of this cross, it's funny because I'm gonna oscillate between human design and astrology because it's important. With the fourth mutation of any angle cross, you're looking at a period where for the most part the struggles or the trials have all been gone through, and now there's a point of mastery. The fourth angle cross is like, okay, I've been there, I've done that, I've got all the karmic lessons behind me, I've got it all shed off, and now it's time to really focus on what can be done. So for instance, the first mutation of the right angle cross of rulership is more about just people seeing that person as a leader and just looking at them. Oftentimes they get all of people's problems, they get all the responsibilities they don't want. It's almost like, here's leadership, it's foisted upon you. Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I did not want this. And it's more that they're now trying to deal with the fact that they have all this responsibility they may or may not want. They may or may not be prepared for. Preparation doesn't matter, because it's what your soul was actually looking for when it came into this 3D world of dense matter. So with the second one, this is more about managing that authority. It's about, okay, so how do I best make sure that resources are taken care of? How do I best allocate resources? How do I direct them? And resources could be physical resources, it could be people, it could be emotional resources, it could be mental resources, it could be anything. It's all about the management of those resources. By the third one, it's now being able to understand the value of those resources, being able to see what the value is. And I find that a lot of people who have the third incarnation, first of all, they're quite rare. I haven't found very many of them. But second of all, it's more of this is one of the biggest points of possibility to get it wrong, because if you devalue something that actually has value, then you are screwing it up. And it's easy to do that, it's easy to feel like, well, I'm getting it wrong, but I'm trying to get it right, and I feel like I need to do it perfect. A lot of Virgo energy in this. And then by the time you come to the fourth one, it's like, okay, now what I need to do is I need to demonstrate why other people should listen to me. I need to practice the idea of leadership. I need to let people know that I've gotten it all done. I've gotten it all out of my system, and now it's time to really rule. And it's not rule as in I need to prove to people why I'm right. No, it's I need to prove to people why I am valuable. Why why what I'm saying is going to be of value to you. Why what I'm doing is going to have some something that you really want to pay attention to because you're going to gain something from it. And because you're going to gain something from it, you're going to grow in some way. And again, there's a responsibility here because if you project yourself as a leader, and this is a very projecting gate, the incarnation cross. This is a very projecting incarnation cross. If you project something that you don't believe in, you will you'll be seen as betraying your ability to lead. Betrayal is one of those things that people do not get over. So there's a lot of responsibility and also a lot of risk that comes with this. But life is risk. So there's no way of getting around it. It's more about using it correctly. So by the time with me, what I had to learn was knowing when to speak, when to shut up, and when to play well with others. And playing well with others oftentimes meant listening to what other people were doing, what they needed, and finding out how can I help? How can I be most of a service to you in this moment? How can I offer something of value to you that you are going to enjoy, that you're going to like, that you're going to see as something that is valuable so that you want to keep on following me, paying attention to me, and listening to the wisdom that I have to offer because all I really want to do is I want to be that person who can be of service.
That's so beautiful. I've actually never really felt it like that before. So I really appreciate the way that you shared all four ways that this incarnation cross evolves. And I really appreciate that. I also appreciate the way that you speak about disbursement as a responsibility, and you have to earn that responsibility, right? Because and it's almost like this responsibility is earned, it's not given, from what from the way that I'm hearing you speak. And so, I like to talk about the gate 45 or this energy as being ordained. It's ordained, but it's almost as like, your soul chose this for you. You and your soul chose this for you. So you chose this heavy, could quote unquote burden or responsibility of earning the trust and gaining the wisdom, gaining the resources so that you can share it with others. And so I really appreciate the way that you shared that. So thank you. I'm going to
Pleasure.
share a little bit about the way that I see my left angle cross, and then I would also love to hear it from you as well. So my left angle cross of the alpha is very much like the wolf pack. And the wolf pack, the leader does not lead from the front. The leader leads from behind. And this is very much how I lead as well. It's really based on survival and security and safety. And I want to, with the left angle cross and the democratic, it really is leading from behind. It really is helping those that need the most help and letting those that are front runners be the front runners, but they don't necessarily have to be the forefront. And so in my household, we talk about the right angle cross of rulership being like the dragon in Chinese astrology, and the left angle cross of the alpha being more like the snake, right? Really sensing the needs, sensing what is needed to help the collective, the group, the tribe, where the dragon sees from a different vantage point. And so even in our day to day, we find that the ruler takes over the bigger decisions, where the democratic leader takes over the smaller ones that makes everything run smoothly. Yeah, so I'm curious what you have to share about the left angle of alpha, or if you have anything.
Is it the first or second mutation?
Second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that this is I love what you said about it because when I think about the this leadership, I think of it as being very maternal and being very if you look at the defense circuit, so the from the left and the right of the sacral, um the the alpha I see as being much more of the nurturing type of leadership, the leadership that does maintain survival of the pack, and how important that really is to ensure, because being able to lead, being able to create it, to go for a goal is great. It's good, but it doesn't mean anything if it doesn't mean if there's no ensuring of survival. And the with the second mutation, this is more like, okay, the opportunity has presented itself for me to lead. The opportunity is there. It wasn't something that I created. It was like, I see an opening. Let's go after it. And understanding where you can provide um, the wisdom, you can provide leadership, you can um, move in that direction. It's not something that you're going to take upon yourself. This is not rulership. This is about, okay, this is where I'm needed, whether it's spoken or unspoken. There is an energetic need, and it's like I'm there. And again, the mutation is really important, because by the second mutation, this is more of a sense that there's an instinct that is there that lets you know I am needed in this way. There are those who need me, and regardless of what I want, that doesn't matter. It's more about how I can serve, and making sure that you are able to provide that sense of comfort, or that sense of ability to understand that everything is going to be okay and we can move forward because everything is going to be okay. Um, I study a lot of Stoicism, and I study a lot of leadership traits. And there's one leader that really comes to mind that really amplifies this. His name was he was an admiral in the Navy the uh, during the Vietnam War. I forget his name, but he was downed. He was a naval fighter pilot, and he went down and he was captured. And he was the highest ranking naval officer to ever be a prisoner of war. And he was beaten, he was tortured, and all the time he kept um, this idea that this sucks, yes. However, we have to be able to move on. We have to be able to continue going. We have to continue on. And by we, it's not only the royal we, where it's the individual, but also it's about keeping up the spirit of those that are around, and not letting the spirit be broken. And so the incarnation cross of the Alpha I see as being that kind of leader, the kind of leader where we will not perish today. This is not our time to give up. This is our time to be resolute. This is our time to press forward, regardless of how insurmountable the challenges seem that they are. We will always prevail. Being that kind of leader, the Winston Churchill kind of leader, really, the kind that really that understands that even in our darkest hour, it's important that we maintain our focus.
I love that you share it in that way, and especially the Stoicism, because I also study Stoicism as well, especially working in mental health. We actually learn about Stoicism and survival, and how to maintain that without repressing our feelings, right? What I find really interesting about the way that we're talking about leadership, really, and what kept coming through for me was sustainability, right? How do we create leadership that sustains? How do we create leadership that isn't a trend? How do we create leadership, and how do we lead in a way that is going to impact the future generations? How are we going to lead in a way that is going to inspire the future generations to want to be leaders in their own right?
it's funny you ask that question because this is something that I've spent the last 10 years really figuring out or trying to figure out as well. And I think that I've come up with something. So leadership, the basis of effective leadership, of successful leadership, understanding how people behave and working within the confines of that behavior. Now, in order to understand how people behave, you first have to understand how you behave because there's a direct corollary between the way you behave and the way others behave because we're all made of the same stuff. We're all made the exact same way. We all have relatively the same experience. We all react relatively the same way as stimuli. So knowing that, we have to first understand ourselves. We have to create a self-awareness. And we also have to develop a sense of emotional intelligence as well as emotional awareness. And based on that emotional intelligence and awareness, we're able to better interact with people, better relate to others. So once we learn how we and others behave, now we have to learn how we can relate. And that relatability is absolutely key. Because without that relatability, without the ability to create genuine connections with others, where we engender trust, which is the foundation of all success, is creating that trust. Once we have that foundation, now we can do our real leading, also known as influence. Once you can relate to others, you can influence people. And making sure that you are influencing them for their greatest good, as well as for your greater good, is absolutely key. When you can influence enough people and you can get enough people listening to you, or you can get the buy-in necessary from others who want to follow the same leadership style, the same influencing structure that you have created, now you've created a movement. And this is where you really lead. Because leadership doesn't happen from the ones or twos. That's relatability or that's influence. Real leadership is by collecting enough people in a group that are willing to move in the exact same direction towards the exact same goal for the exact same purpose. And when you do this large enough, excuse me, my throat's getting a little dry. I'm just going to take a drink of coffee. When you have enough people in a large enough mass, you create a movement or a force that is irresistible. And this is the benefit of leadership, is leadership creates an irresistible force that then informs, shapes, and transforms cultures. And that cultural transformation is what is the fruit that the leadership provides. It is the thing that leadership is destined to do. It is destined to shape the way that cultures behave, because that's going to determine how people teach their children and how they educate, how they bring them up into the world and say, here, now that I've brought you up, it is time for you to assert yourself, find your way, and then find out how your way is going to influence the culture. And this is, I'm going to bring it back to human design. This is the interplay between three major circuits: tribal, individual, and the collective. And when the tribal is there to cultivate, is there to ensure that the survival of the human condition is there. And once that is done, the tribe sends out its people to go forth and find your way individually, and finding their own way by finding what most impacts them, by what most excites them, how they're able to shape their world. This is how they inform the collective, the rest of humanity, which then goes on to increase the validity and vibrancy of the tribal.
I love the way that you share that. And the one word that keeps coming, I'm quite intuitive, and the word that keeps coming is influence, influence, influence. And influence, you notice, like yours comes from the heart, comes from the ego, right? where my influence comes from the throat. And yet, I truly believe that influence is through being, not through the spoken word, right? I believe that yes, we can influence through the spoken word, but I would rather allow my aura, I would rather allow my energy, I would rather allow my actions, my beingness be the influencer and walking my walk instead and talking my talk, right? And I truly believe that when we start seeing like authenticity in a way that we see the good and the bad and the ugly. We don't see this Hollywood vision of leadership anymore. Like we don't see the I'm in Canada, the censorship of leadership anymore. When we can actually see what is going on and people actually show up in full authenticity, and that we're going to see leadership change. We're going to see influence change. We're going to see that everybody in their own right has something to share, something of value, and self-worth. The one thing that I really work with is self-value and self-worth as a way to serve through sustainability. And so, I mean, this is just another topic that I would love to go deeply into at some point, but this is part of what we're really seeing, especially with Uranus and Taurus right now, really shaking us to the core of our values and our self-worth and transforming that. Because typically anybody in the service industry are valued quite low. They're paid quite low, right? Anybody in healthcare, anybody in the service industry is paid quite low because that amount of service isn't valued. And although we had COVID and we had many people thanking us for serving, thanking is not going to pay the bills. And so really, when we take that accountability of, of upgrading our own self-worth and our own self-value, then we can really influence the world through our aura and through our actions.
Absolutely, yeah. And the more that we understand why, that's one of the best the best things that you can do is find out why you are doing this. What is it you want, and how can you be of most service to the rest of the collective? How can you be of most benefit? And by focusing on that benefit that you can provide, by focusing on what you can do to improve the lot of others, that is going to be the real testament of your work.
That's beautiful. So I'm going to ask you, what is it that you can do? And how is it that you serve your community? Do you have anything that you can offer today, or a website or anything that we can share with the viewers of Soulprism Podcast so they can find you and work with you if they are interested in learning more about leadership?
Sure. I have a free ebook that I wrote called The Leadership Principle. And it's a effective guide of understanding what true leadership is and using it as a source of empowerment. You can pick that up at rise-to-lead.coach. It'll take you through invite you to my mailing list. By signing up for that, you'll be able to get that, and then you can sign up for a free consultation with me if you so desire. Other than that, you can find me on Facebook. Rise to Lead is my Facebook page. I'm also on Instagram at rise.to.lead. So any one of those places you can find me. I'm also on many different podcasts. You can find me on YouTube if you can find me. Yeah, it's really the best place to look for me probably would be either Facebook or Instagram.
Awesome. And I will be sure to share all your links in the show notes below so people can find you. Well, thank you so much, Jason, for being on the Soulprism podcast today. Is there anything else that you want to share before we close up?
Yeah, one thing that I like to share with everyone as I close at any podcast is find opportunities to be kind, and kindness will find you in return.
That is beautiful. That is so absolutely beautiful. We need and actually it is a need. We need more kindness in the world. We need more open-heartedness in the world, and this starts with us, right? This starts from the ground floor up to those in influence and leadership. But it starts with us first. So I want to thank you so much for sharing that, Jason.
Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, everyone, that is it for Soulprism Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and comment below on anything that stood out for you in the podcast today. I absolutely love to read your comments and to continue the conversation. So have a wonderful day. So did you download your human design chart and wonder, what does this all mean? I get it. It can be super confusing when you first download your human design chart. That's why we created a short mini course called How to Read Your Human Design Chart. This is going to walk you through the basics of your human design chart, which is going to get you excited to learn even more about yourself through this beautiful system. So click the link below if you're interested in learning how to read a human design chart.